You just got weaseled. We are building a weasel army, all right? I want to make sure to cover this too. Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif and cameraman attempted to provoke a security incident at the Netzarim corridor at the behest of Hamas. So they're saying now Al Jazeera is Hamas. That's what Ethan's friend Ahmed is saying, right? Remember, this is the Palestinian guy that apparently the IDF killed his entire family, and he is now basically doing, PR for the IDF, which, yeah. They tried to put up a drone above the Egyptian and American forces after the withdrawal of Israeli troops to capture footage, but were likely gathering intel and scouting the area for Hamas, which was rumored to want to use the Netzarim corridor as a site for a future hostage release to prove it is in full control of Gaza. American PMCs, those are like, these are, PMC chat is basically a politically correct way of saying a mercenary, right? That's what that is. Worked with Egyptian security personnel to get the drone operator not to fly it overhead. With tensions escalating, the Al Jazeera journalists team sent it up anyway, and the video of the incident has been distributed on social media with laughter and commentary to boast about defying U.S. security contractors and providing and proving that Netzarim. Wait, no, I mean, I guess is PMC exactly? Maybe I'm misspeaking here. Right, the PMC, it's like what Russia uses, right? The oh my god, well, I'm trying to remember the guy that revolted and started to march towards Moscow. Eventually, agreed to stop marching on Moscow, and then was killed most likely by Putin in a plane crash, right? What, that was a PMC, I think. So yeah, maybe this is like a contractor, I guess. I mean, technically, it's not that different than a mercenary, but yeah, it is technically a security contractor, and proving that Netzarim, like most of Gaza, is back under full control of the resistance. Extremely reckless behavior that's going to endanger the ceasefire and create unnecessary risks for civilians and the fragile calm that's desperately needed. This is terrible news. Israel pulled the trigger, but I squarely blame him, right? Blame Ahmed for their deaths. He planted false stories about Anas, yeah, that's the journalist, and is directly responsible for his murder. I also blame the Atlantic and Atlantic Council for giving this rat a platform for his lethal smears. So yeah, this is him trying to put a fig leaf on it, right? This is him saying, "Oh, it's horrible! I can't believe the Israeli military did this. The Israeli military assassinated a group of journalists in Gaza City in their tents, including Al Jazeera's well-known Anas al-Sharif, claiming that he's a member of Hamas and that he celebrated October 7th and had deep connections and ties to prove his membership to the group." This came after this, chat. This came after the February. Yeah, this was on February 10th that he basically, during the ceasefire, he's basically claiming that these journalists are Hamas. They're working with Hamas. They're agents of Hamas. Ironically, if anybody's is working for terrorists, it's Ahmed, not Anas al-Sharif. But yeah, this is him trying to kind of put a good face on what he did, which was, contribute to the murder, the collateral, maybe not so collateral murder, because I think Israel's actually claimed responsibility. I think Israel's 10 toes down on what they did to this journalist and his team. I don't know whether he was part of Hamas or not, because everybody's Hamas apparently. But I do know that in the context of his killing, you basically claimed that he's Hamas back here, didn't you? You said he's working. Yeah, this wasn't like he could have been working, or he's doing something that makes it look like he's working for Hamas, or like, you know. We're likely gathering intel and scouting the area for Hamas. They said he attempted to provoke a security incident on the behest of Hamas. This guy straight up say, so maybe he's not saying they're Hamas, but he's saying they're working with Hamas, right? And it's this kind of shit. And chat, we've seen this before, right? Where somebody gets targeted based on, you know, based on Hasbros on, you know, on Twitter or wherever, or, you know, pro-Israeli or pro-Israel like journalists, right? Kind of putting putting the bullseye on them for the IDF. I don't know whether he was a part of Hamas or not, but I do know that in the context of his killing is deeply troubling and highly problematic. It is part of the established trend of targeting and killing journalists in Gaza who have been the only link to the outside world in providing information, especially given the persistent Israeli ban on the entry of foreign journalists into Gaza. Worst, Anas was killed right after the announcement of Israel's intention to fully occupy the coastal enclave, starting with the northern metropolis, and almost as if to signal that the Israeli military and government do not want broadcast what is about to take place in Gaza City. They definitely don't, chat. I mean, this has been a whole thing, right? We don't know how many people were killed in Gaza, you know, as whatever, you know, post invasion, it seems like, you know, they intend to occupy, starts to take place, right? If journalists get in, right, they're going to start to be able to get an idea of how many people were killed and how they were killed, right? It's going to start to look worse and worse for Israel, in other words, right? So yeah, this is a, you know, a warning, I guess, from the IDF that they don't want journalism to take place in that area. They don't want their crimes to be exposed. Deeply problematic and indicative of the attempt to suppress inconvenient information coming out of Gaza, potentially. Otherwise, why target Anas and his group of journalists now of all times? If Israel had the intelligence all along, proving its membership to Hamas, regardless of what one thinks of Anas and Al Jazeera, the only solution to disprove this hypothesis for Israel is to systematically suppressing information coming out of Gaza, is to allow international and foreign journalists into the Gaza Strip, and to make it clear that journalists can operate without fear for their lives from Israeli bombardment and the perpetual loosely thrown accusations of being part of Hamas. Journalism should not be a crime, should not be a cause for losing one's life, no matter how uncomfortable and unpleasant the reporting for journalists can be. AB posted about this too. It's AB's reaction to Ahmed basically calling AB's dad, who headed CARE, terrorist adjacent. This is what we already looked at. Yesterday, this is AB's Instagram here. Yesterday, Anas al-Sharif carried the bodies of slain journalists. Today, his body is being carried. This is Gaza. I mean, I don't know what to say, chat. Like, you know, this is not what you'd expect to be coming from a member of a crew member of the H3 broadcast, right? Okay. Oh, wait, no, you're asking about the murdered journalists. Weren't they Hamas? No, that's what Ethan Klein. Okay, I'm so glad you're here, Blue Magician. I would love to know where you got that information. Before we proceed with the bad, maybe I can do a good deed yet, right? Before we proceed with the bad Empanada video, I would love to know where you learned that. Where you learned that Anas and and his team, the slain Al Jazeera journalists, were actually Hamas. They were Hamas. The journalists were Hamas. Blue Magician, when somebody tells you that the health ministry is Hamas, the journalists are Hamas, the doctors in the hospital that got bombed were Hamas. And I'm not talking about the initial hospital that people dispute whether the bombing, came from the IDF or not. I'm talking about all the other hospitals. Every hospital in Israel, in Gaza is destroyed. Every single hospital has been destroyed by the IDF. But that's okay, because all of the hospital staff, all of the doctors, all of the patient, everyone was Hamas. The children that got sniped by bullets, the children that ended up with sniper bullets in their brain, they were Hamas. Does that sound like something that's actually true? Or does this seem like something that maybe somebody's telling you in order to get you to be okay with something that you definitely shouldn't be okay with? Right? Do you see a pattern forming? Somebody gets killed. It seems kind of fucked up. That was a journalist. Oh, no, it's okay. They were Hamas. They were Hamas. I can read you the tweet. Let's go back to this since we did this earlier. Yeah, this is the one. So, yeah, this is the guy. So you were talking about the journalist. Now, look, this is a friend of Ethan, right? This is Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib. Talking about the journalists. This was in February, right? So these are the slain journalists. This is what Ahmed said. Al Jazeera journalist Anas Al-Sharif, that's the slain journalist and cameraman, attempted to provoke a security incident in the Netzarim corridor at the behest of Hamas. He's not giving you any supporting details, any receipts. Just take my word for it. Hamas told him to do this, and he did this. They tried to put a drone above the Egyptian and American forces after the withdrawal of Israeli troops to capture footage, but were likely gathering intel and scouting the area for Hamas, which was, they were likely, well, I'm not sure they were doing this for Hamas, but yeah, they were probably doing it for Hamas, right? Which was rumored to want to use the Netzarim corridor as a site for a future hostage release to prove it is in the full control of Gaza. The American PMCs so the American mercenaries worked with the Egyptian security personnel to get the drone operator not to fly it overhead. With tensions escalating, the Al Jazeera journalist team sent it up anyway. So they disobeyed the American mercenaries and Egyptian security. So that's how we know they're Hamas. They're Hamas. Don't feel bad for them. It's Hamas. All right. Everybody that dies in this conflict by virtue. Chat, if I told you that a woman that was this is like witch trial shit. You know what I mean? She's a witch. She should be put to death. How do we know that she's a witch? Because somebody said they saw her dancing in the with the devil, in the moonlight, right? I mean, this is just this is an excuse to act like a Nazi, and you should not take that excuse, right? This is an excuse not to act like a Nazi. Let me just put it another way: to act like a German civilian that did not want to believe what their government was actually doing, that wanted to believe that the final solution was somehow something more humane, or that the Jews that were, implicated in that solution were somehow deserving of the fates that they were consigned to. So after the fact, right? So that was, I read you the tweet from February. This is the tweet now. This is Ahmed, trying to basically walk back what he said. He put a fucking target on these people's back. Were they Hamas? It doesn't matter because they're dead now, and we'll never fucking know. But we do know that Ahmed pointed out, made a tweet about these people, and then they ended up getting fucking, getting killed. And I think this one, IDF has actually claimed responsibility. I don't think this is one of those ones where it's kind of well, they ended up dead. How did that happen? No, this is, I think this is one that they've actually claimed responsibility, and they're probably saying the same thing. Yeah. That's why I asked, where did you learn that? Right? Because what happens is Israel does something fucking horrible. Massive human rights violation. Killing a journalist, right? And then they have this practice that is called Hasbara. Now, some people will describe Hasbara as propaganda. That's not the literal meaning of Hasbara, all right? The literal meaning of Hasbara is explanation. They will provide an explanation. The explanation is that the journalist was actually Hamas. Who knew? Right? It seemed like a journalist, seemed like he was doing, journalism, seems like he was trying to let the world know what was going on in Gaza. Nope, he was Hamas. And now the world has lost another set of eyes into that conflict. Convenient. Claiming he's a member of Hamas, that he celebrated October 7th and had a deep, the Israeli military. Yes, so he's straight up saying it, that this was an intentional assassination of a group of journalists. This is after he asserted that these people were Hamas, right? Now he's saying, the Israeli military assassinated these people. So now he's saying, I don't know whether he was Hamas. Look at this, chat. Before, he was Hamas. Now, it was an assassination. I don't know if he was a member of Hamas. Israel claims he was. But his killing is deeply troubling and highly problematic. You, Ahmed, put the target on his back. Anyway.
Been killed in Gaza by Israel intentionally for doing journalism during this genocide. This killing is particularly disgusting because it was obviously specifically...
Wait, yeah, but it's propaganda. I mean... I kind of think it's a little bit more than... It's all over the news. What news are you... Blue Magician, please. Can you not figure this out? Yeah, in effect, it's propaganda, Fritzl, but the literal meaning of it is an explanation, right? Calling it an explanation. Well, no, I am trying to illustrate, Fritzl. I think you might be just barely missing the point. My point is that this is Orwellian language. Does that make... Because that sounds like what you're saying, too. It sounds like you and I actually agree, right? This is... calling it an explanation is kind of Orwellian language, right? Saying that anybody that ends up dead under your bombs, under your bullets, is Hamas is a little bit Orwellian.
Targeted at these journalists, and it came after a prolonged...
You got to start independently thinking, Blue Magician. You got to start questioning your news sources, right?
Smear campaign against them by Israel and by pro-Israel propaganda.
Otherwise, you're going to end up like one of those saps in the history books, like one of those German civilians that thought that the Jews were responsible for the loss of World War I, and therefore some mistreatment was justified because they were an enemy of the German people, and that when you finally found out what that abuse, what they were subjected to, you were like, oh my gosh. I did not know that they were being gassed and burnt and all that. Oh my gosh. This is what we call the banality of evil. And you right now, I hate to say it, Blue Magician, are a part of that banality, right? You were doing banal. You were doing banal for Israel. And I doubt you're even getting paid for it. To come in here and spread but they were Hamas, Everyone was Hamas. All the dead, all the victims, everyone dead was Hamas. Hamas. The babies were Hamas. The doctors were Hamas. The nurses were Hamas. Everyone was Hamas. It's okay. Right?
Pianists abroad, one of whom we have talked about on this channel before, Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib, designed to paint them as legitimate targets worthy of killing or whatever.
Yeah, this is another. I'm responding to. I'm on Twitch and YouTube, so
it bears mention.
If you're not seeing the person that I'm talking to, it's because they're on the other platform. Use Ground News. There we go. Brixton, nice.
If any of these journalists were somehow like members of Hamas in some capacity or associated with it or, friends with Hamas members or some shit like that, that doesn't actually make them valid targets. Under international law, even if you have, say, a press reporter who is like affiliated with a state or some group, unless they literally like are...
What about those underground command centers? That's pretty convenient, isn't it? If you can say there's a command center, Blue Magician, what if I said there was a command center under your house? Would that help you sleep at night? Or would that maybe do the opposite, right? Do you see how this fucking works? It's not that complicated, right? There's conveniently a command center under every school, hospital, a childcare center, etc., right? Any civilian target the IDF takes out in its mission to destroy civil life in Gaza, in its mission to ethnically cleanse the area before turning it into settlements, is justified by some mysterious command center or tunnel, or they were simply Hamas. Do you ever get tired of hearing that they were Hamas? Like, oh, okay, I thought something bad happened here. Like, can you imagine, like, you go outside and there's two like masked thugs beating somebody's fucking ass, splattering their skull on the ground, and then curb stomping them? And they're like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? And they tell you, no, it's okay. It was an illegal immigrant. All right, that's what that was. That guy was breaking the law. That guy was taking your job. That guy was doing crime. It's a crime for him to even be there. He crossed that borderline. That was a crime. That's why he got his head stomped in. Do you feel better now? Or do you feel worse? Because you should be thinking of a certain famous poem where first they came for the communist, and I did not care because I was not a communist. First, they came for the illegal immigrant, and I did not care because I am a naturalized citizen. Then they denaturalized me. First, they came for Hamas, and I did not care because I was not a terrorist. That shit only happens to bad people. You're being told fairy tales to help you sleep at night. And the truth of the matter is that the things that go bump in the night are very, very real. And they can affect me, and they can affect you, and they will affect both of us unless we learn to stand up for each other, unless we learn to question these narratives, to question the easy answer. There's a command center under everything. There's a Hamas. They're Hamas. Like until we start saying, you saying that as Hamas, everybody's Hamas. Everybody conveniently is Hamas. You're saying there's a command center under there. Everywhere there's a command center. That's pretty fucking convenient, isn't it? Because it seems to me like you might be murdering civilians. It seems to me like you might be committing human rights crimes. And just using that excuse over and over and over. And I gotta ask you, Blue Magician, when is gonna be too much? When are you gonna draw the line and say, like, you use that excuse over and over and over and over again? All these piles of dead kids are all, they were actually aiming for Hamas. Hamas was right behind them, right? There was a command center underneath, right? Certainly there's an explanation. Certainly there's a Hasbara for that.
Armed and fighting, they are not a valid target. You can't just kill them. But this is irrelevant here because these people were not members of Hamas or whatever. There's no evidence of this. It's made up.
Yeah, why wasn't Anas underground? Yeah, why wasn't Anas underground in one of the Byzantine conduit of fucking tunnels that that are under all of Gaza? If he was such an important Hamas leader, right? Why are all the Hamas leaders dead if they got this system of tunnels?
IDF bullshit. The same thing that always happens. The IDF invents fake documents, gives them to pro-government Israeli newspapers. Those Israeli newspapers post them as if they are true, quoting the IDF. And then morons abroad are like, oh, look, it's okay that we massacred these 5 journalists because this one was Hamas. Look at this PDF that the IDF gave us. Definitely 100% real. So this campaign against one of the journalists who was specifically targeted and murdered here was actually started by Ahmed Al-Khatib. Al-Khatib, a notable guest, I will add, of the H3H3 podcast run by Ethan and Hila.
So take care of yourself, BCAT-K.
Klein began the incitement against Anas al-Sharif in a coordinated campaign with the Israeli government. He was the first to start posting about al-Sharif supposedly being Hamas way back in February of this year, 6 months ago. As you can see in this post right here, al-Sharif was branded as Hamas by Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib in this post, who blamed him for supposedly provoking a security incident by being somewhere with a camera and taking pictures, and who said that he was doing this at the behest of Hamas. It is the opinion of many Palestinian journalists and others close to these journalists and other journalists that Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib is the one who directly incited this murder. Here is just a selection of this. Abdel Halim Abdel Raham, who is an independent Palestinian journalist who has written for outlets like Foreign Policy magazine, Abu Bakr Abed, a Palestinian photojournalist from Gaza, and Idris Ahmad, the associate editor of New Lines magazine. Aside from the fact that the H3 podcast invited Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib onto their show and allowed him to spout pro-Israel propaganda, they also solicited donations to the Atlantic Council, which is the pro-Israel organization that Ahmed works for whom he directly incites against journalists and calls for their murder. Not just in this case, by the way, he's done this before, as he posted just a month ago saying that propagandists for what he called the Iranian regime, Hamas, Hezbollah, Shia militias, etc., are not true journalists and are not off limits and they shouldn't be untouchable. And now his words are being put into action directly against journalists who he calls in hits on. On the H3H3 production subreddit, Ahmed Fuad al-Khatib is known as the base legend. No wonder they donated thousands of dollars to his pro-Israel organization. They clearly very much align with his calls to massacre and kill journalists, which then result in the killing of these journalists. This should be the end for everyone involved in this. They should have no career ever. They should go into hiding. And the fact that that's probably not going to happen to them says it all about the state of the world that we live in. We are approaching 300 journalists massacred in Gaza on the incitement of people like this. It's not the first time it's happened and won't be the last. Barry Weiss.
Yeah, he's talking about a phenomenon that's very real, right? And we saw it. Remember, this is exactly what we saw Ahmed doing, right? First he's he's basically saying, like, these people were working with Hamas. This journalist, right, is Hamas. The journalist gets killed. And then he's like, oh, geez, how did that ever happen? Oh, that's terrible. I disavow. It's too late. You fucking murdered him. Sorry, you contributed to his murder. I don't want to place that all on one person. I don't know the entire circumstances, but shit like this and what Bad Empanada is about to describe with Barry Weiss, right, has gotten people killed. Continues to get people killed.
Famously called for the murder of Refat al-Arir, which then swiftly resulted in his killing. The Israeli state watches this stuff. They look at the pulse of people. They check how well they think their propaganda is working. And if they think that the smears by their propagandists against certain journalists are adequate enough, they then kill that journalist, because they know that those people will then defend their murder immediately afterwards. In this case, though, thankfully at least, there is heat coming down on Ahmed. Ahmed immediately posted, like, lukewarmly denouncing this on his Twitter account. Journalism should not be a crime and should not be a cause for losing one's life, no matter how uncomfortable and unpleasant the reporting of journalists can be. Same fucking guy who a month ago directly said that he thinks journalists who disagree with him should be killed. Same guy who is the one who literally...
What's that? Let me see the...
specific journalist who was killed. This is the state of the world that we live in now. Something has...
Well, yeah, like he identifies this person as you know, being at the very least working with Hamas, right? The dude gets killed and he admits he doesn't know. He doesn't know if this guy is Hamas.
Said that he thinks...
What is this? It's a Discord post. Are propagandists from the Iranian regime, the IRGC, Hamas, Hezbollah, Shia militias, and ISIS true journalists? So yeah, he's basically saying if a journalist is sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, sympathetic to the resistance in any way, that they should not be off limits. They're doing propaganda. He's declaring them combatants, chat. Journalists. You can disagree with a journalist's coverage. You can call out their biases if they have any. But that's not what he's doing. They're targetable combatants. And then he fucking cries crocodile tears after the fact.
Journalists who disagree with him should be killed. Same guy who is the one who literally originated the smears against a specific journalist who was killed. This is the state of the world that we live in now. Something has to be done about this. Something has to be done about these people whose words literally directly result in murder. There is a racial genocide going on in Gaza on the behest of the supposedly representative Jewish state of Israel. They are massacring Palestinians for not being Jews. And people like Ahmad Fuad al-Khatib and Ethan Klein are literally spreading propaganda.
Wait, Amy Schumer reposted a pro-Palestine post, not realizing it was and thought it was pro-Israel. Yeah, this happened a while ago, right? If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, this was Amy Schumer. It was like a child, right? That was I'm trying to remember this. I think this happened a while ago. BCatK.
That directly results in the killing of specific.
So yeah, she assumed that this was like I think it was like she assumed it was an Israeli child, and it was actually a Palestinian child.
Specific named people. What more is there to say here?
Oh my god, I still have that filter on, that anti-Ethan filter. I should take that off.